Hello, welcome to this game review. We'll have a look at a game where black played the opening quite decently, but then opened the position a bit too early because he was completely undeveloped and the opponent was basically developed, which is usually not a good scenario to open up the position. So let's take a look. So it started as a Caro-Kann, some advanced variation, and then bishop f5, d4, e6, and bishop e2. Here black played this move h6, which I guess isn't terrible, but in general we shouldn't waste time like this in the opening. We should only play h6 if it's completely necessary, because every single move in the opening is of very high cost. So for example here we can use our move to play knight d7 and then push c5 at some point, or maybe develop the knight somewhere and then the bishop. But h5 doesn't seem necessary. White castles, and now black plays c5, which is a bit inaccurate because now he has one piece developed. He has pushed 4 pawns now, or 5 even, while white has the bishop and the rook and the king developed, and the knight as well. So white has a big lead in development, and which white can use to open up the position further with c4. And at this point this tension really doesn't favor black. He should scramble to get his pieces out, but it might be a bit too late. But instead white played knight c3. So in general, again, in this position we should try to develop our pieces as soon as possible, either knight d7 or knight e7. Of course c5 is the correct idea, but we shouldn't rush with such moves, especially when we're so undeveloped. But c5 seems to work out here because white played knight c3, which is just a very bad square for the knight, as it's not really doing anything. Knight c6, bishop b5. So white is not really playing too well. The spin is kind of useless. Black plays a6, but there was no reason to push the bishop to take the knight, as it was going to take the knight anyway. We should try to get our pieces out as soon as possible, though this isn't possible because c5 is hanging. Maybe we should play queen c7, maybe rook c8 at some point, and try to get our pieces developed. Again, priority is rapid development. Okay, and in this position we have to understand that white has attacked our pawn, and either way, even if we don't see it, here black played a very bad move from an opening principles point of view. It's move 10 and black still has only one piece developed, and he chooses to again move the developed piece. And understandably, maybe the bishop is better on g4 than on f5, but at this point we have to look at the pieces which are completely undeveloped, not the ones which can be improved. This is not a priority right now, and at this point black also has to deal with this. So maybe we can play queen a5, this way we develop the queen, and again we're going to try to play knight e7 to g6 and bishop e7 and castle. It doesn't look ideal, but it's better than nothing. We can also play c4 to relieve the pressure and then develop. But either way, black really has to develop. After this, white simply takes a pawn, which is also a bit curious. It's not clear why black gave up a pawn in one move. He maybe didn't see that the pawn was hanging. Okay, now queen a5. And here white can develop this pawn nicely. Protect the pawn, by this move. Point being that now this is a fork, so black cannot take. b4 is the next move, and white has a pawn and a lot of development. But bishop d2, this allows black to take the pawn and then move back the queen. In general, this is quite a bad square for the queen, but it's only bad if we again understand what black should do, and it is to develop these pieces. Black is for some reason in no hurry to develop the pieces. He should put a queen somewhere else, not on e7, and then again get our pieces out and castle. Okay, queen e7, and here again white's idea should be to open up the position, since he has a huge lead in development and black's king is completely stuck in the center. These pieces are entirely out of play, and after c4 white is a little bit better, maybe even a lot better, even though he is a pawn down. Though actually he isn't a pawn down, so white has a free advantage. But knight b6 doesn't really do much. Now these pieces look a bit strange. Queen c5 was played, And in general, this is a good idea to move the queen to develop the bishop and knight, but we should have done it to a7 to not lose more time. And now we're threatening to take 2 pieces for a rook, and we're also threatening to complete development. But after this, the problem is b4, which I presume black didn't see. Now the queen just went back, and this is a big problem. If we lose a move like this in the opening, when every single move is worth gold, we are usually in big trouble. And logically, white should again open up the center, open up the files to let his pieces invade. And at this point, black is basically lost. The position is already very, very poor. But queen d3 is a bit slow, though here black completely blunders with the move f6, again opening up the position without any development, making the same mistake twice in one game. Here black should firstly get rid of the threat on a6, and at the same time give his pieces some room to develop, and queen a7 was the only logical move. Next we can play maybe knight e7 to f5, bishop e7, and castles. But f6 not only is positionally bad, but it just blunders a simple fork with queen g6, which should be seen in a 30-minute game. In general, if we don't see this, it means we're not looking for it. We should, before making any move, look at all of the opponent's forcing moves and imagine we have played this. Now white takes, and white is playing very quickly here, so he doesn't look for tactics. Knight d4, knight e4. Again, black should try to develop the pieces, but at this point it's very difficult. He should either move the queen or at least develop the king to connect the rooks eventually. Maybe queen a7 soon or something. Here white can take some material, but at least black will be able to develop some pieces. But of course black is basically losing. Knight e4, white takes c6, which was also hanging, which black did not consider. Queen g5, and at this point the position is completely lost, of course, but white makes a very bad move, knight c8, which is hard to understand. At this point black has just attacked the knight on b8, and even though white has +6 in material, now black finally has developed most of their pieces, especially if they castle, and there's quite a lot of pieces around white's king, so white's king is in a bit of danger. And after knight c8, obviously we have to take the knight. There should be no question about this, but for some reason black did not see this, and it took him 5 minutes to make this move, so this was the longest thing of the game, and it's hard to understand if he didn't see and the bishop takes b8 or thought queen h5 was better. But after this, white is a bit better, but there are some real threats here. Also this knight is quite poorly placed, and again castles will come with tempi, and black is actually attacking quite seriously here. But after this, white just takes the attacking pieces, and from here black has no attack. White has +7 material, so the rest of the game was not entirely interesting. Even though black did win a queen, this wasn't even enough because white has a lot of material, and from here a lot of stuff happened, but in the end white managed to lose. At this point white is winning because he has 2 rooks and a bishop for a queen, also a lot of pawns, so the position is hopeless. But at some point black got some chances right here with g3, and here surprisingly the position is basically drawn after king h3. And the reason it is drawn is because black will get stalemated. This is his only resource left. White cannot checkmate right now, and black is now threatening to give up his queen somehow, either by taking here, after which any recapture will be stalemate, or taking here, which makes white's best move the strange looking rook takes g4, giving up a whole rook just to not allow stalemate. And after this, white will be a bit better here, but it's not really winning anymore. But king h5 was played, and here with 15 minutes we should be able to find this. But after a few moves, and now white is getting perpetual if black finds this check. Again, we should always look for checks. At this point, white's king cannot go anywhere. For example, if here queen e4, if this, then this is quite an easy perpetual. The queen will just run around on the third rank, so the king cannot really go anywhere, and this is a perpetual. So on every move, black could have made this perpetual, but it's kind of strange because, again, how else are we going to draw this position if not for a stalemate or perpetual check? Queen e3 again should lead to a draw. So the computer will say every move here is a blunder because one side is blundering a perpetual and the other side is not taking the perpetual. So queen a6, but again, black cannot draw this by normal means because he has a lot less material, and white can just take everything and win, well, for example, like this. But here there were many chances of drawing, but black did not seize them.